When I came here, I didn't believe in paying taxes because I was like, why would I want to do that? I did not come from a high trust society. And so I did not assume any society would be high trust. I just thought some people were better at exploiting others. That's it. And so, for example, and now that I would never, ever do that, but I voted Tory. Because I thought, why would I vote for people who want to tax me more?
Isabelle Dupuy talking about navigating the contrasts of life in Haiti and life in the UK. This is Writer's Mosaic, What We Leave, We Carry, the series that tells the true life stories of migration to the UK.
My name is Isabelle Dupuy. I was born in New York. I moved to Haiti when I was 5 years old. My parents were both exiles of Papa Doc Duvalier when I was born in 1970, and they moved back when he died. When I was in New York, I used to go to school with a school bus, as many American children do. And then when we got to Haiti, my mother signed us up to go to school on a Haitian school bus. But in Haiti, at that time, the school buses were a private business. So you would have a guy and he would buy a little bus or a minivan and call it a school bus, and everybody would pay a subscription to go to school on this in this van. And so there was a guy, and his name was Viello, and he had a Daihatsu minivan, a real third world thing, with very narrow and basically could seat like 9 or 10 people. And he would sell 25 tickets to put 25 kids in there with no air conditioning and jammed windows. And it would stink. Like the mornings were okay, but in the afternoons on the way home, after, kids playing in the Caribbean and dirt all day, it was really bad. And so we would overflow, because we were all stuffed at the back of this thing, into the driving area in front. And he kept a whip under the visor. And so to keep you from overflowing on him as he drove. And so if you overflew on him in the front, he would just take out the whip, and while he was driving, would just whip at the back to keep you back. And I remember I went home after this, and I said to my mother, this is very different from the New York bus. And she was like, welcome home. My mother was very keen for us to assimilate very quickly. And so we did not, not that we ever spoke English at home, even in New York. So we were speaking French in New York. We actually were going to a French kindergarten. But in Haiti, we learned to speak Creole. In the weekends, we would often drive to the beach. It was beautiful back then. And then the area became incredibly polluted. And now it's over. Outside of the political issues, the difference in the Haiti I grew up in and the one that exists now is ecological. The nature in Haiti has been damaged very much by very many years of instability and extreme poverty. The first school I went to in Haiti was the Catholic school that my mother had gone to. So it was quite colonial in structure with nuns. Quite a few of them came from Canada and from Belgium. They weren't always nice. They were actually, for the main part, not very nice, and would scare us with stories to make us, do what we're supposed to do. But it was in the days when they still would lock you up in a cupboard if you misbehaved, or they would make you kneel in the corner of the class. They would humiliate you in class as well. It was, and we had to do a lot of prayers standing up in the sun, before going into class. So it was quite old-fashioned. But I eventually moved to the International French School for my last years. What happened is that I had a brace. I had a very bad scoliosis. So my father at the time my father is an engineer, retired now, and he used to be one of the directors of the phone company. But I developed a scoliosis when I was 11, a very bad one, And so my parents took me to the doctor, and the doctor said I needed to wear a brace to fix it, otherwise I would become a hunchback. And so my mother said, okay, well, let's go see the Haitian brace makers. And so at the time in Haiti, there was a charitable institution called Sister Jones. It was a charitable institution where indeed handicapped people would work with each other to solve their problems. And so I went there, and they said, yes, we can make her a brace, but it will be made out of cowhide, out of leather, because that's what material they had. And we'll make holes in it, so for aeration. And in order to measure her, to do the brace and to get her back straight, they had to hang me up. So they hung me up by the wrists with ropes and let me hang there so I would be straight. And then they put a plaster of Paris around my waist. And I remember I never sucked my stomach in so much as when they came with their saw, and the guy was deaf who came with the saw to saw it open so they would have the shape. And I was like, because I didn't want him to cut my stomach, So anyway, so we get the shape and they make the brace. And 2 weeks later, they call us and they say, your brace is ready. And so we go pick up this thing, and this thing was quite rough. It smelled a bit of rough leather, and it was a bit bulky, and it had straps everywhere. Anyway, so we put it on, and I got home, and my father was like, what is this? And I think he could smell me from afar, actually. And my mother was like, well, this is the brace. And he's like, no, this is not going to work. We're going to send her to Montreal to see his sister, who worked there as a teacher, and said she would find an orthopedic surgeon there. And it was going to be expensive, but my parents were really good and decided that it was worth the sacrifice. So we went. So they sent me up to Montreal to my aunt by myself, and when we saw the doctor, he was so intrigued by this brace that he gave us the new brace for free, in exchange for the Haitian brace, which I believe is still in the museum of the medical school in Montreal, at the University of Montreal, as an early example of a variation on what they call the Milwaukee brace. I wore that thing for 4 years and had a difficult time socially, from 11 till 15, until my bones became hard enough. And I had to wear it all the time. So I had to sleep in it. I had to, so I became a big student. And so after I took it off, because I had been quite bullied at my school, we thought it would be a good idea to change schools since I didn't have it anymore. And that's how I ended up moving to the French lycée in Bordeaux. So then when I turned 16, and I didn't have the brace anymore, but I was a good student, all hell broke loose in Haiti. It was 1986, and Baby Doc was kicked out of the country, and it was a revolution. And we all went to celebrate in front of the National Palace, and everybody was very happy, but then chaos ensued. And I think we had, I don't remember, but maybe like 6 governments in, a year and a half. And in all of this, there was a lot of pressure on my father because his utility was the only one that had hard currency because of reverse call charges. The electric company obviously had nothing, neither did the water company, but the phone company did. There's a very large diasporic population in America, so he had to leave his work because he was a very honest man, and he couldn't work with the new people who were trying to control the space. And we went through some years of serious financial and emotional trouble as a family. And I remember thinking back then, I was like, I want to get out of here because this country eats its own people. I had a U.S. passport because I was born in New York, but my English was no longer very good. And I took the bus, the tap-tap, down to the American Institute in Champs one day because I thought, I've had a nice life in Haiti, but I want to go. But I don't want to go to have a bad life elsewhere. I want to go and have a good life elsewhere and be able to help my family. And, so I went down there and I went to see the librarian at the American Institute because I thought she would know how to get back there, because I didn't know. I was in a French school. I had no idea. And she saw me and she said, "Oh, hello, young lady. How can I help you?" And I said, "Well, here I am. This is who I am. I'm Isabelle Dupuy. I don't sound American, but I have a U.S. passport, and I want to go to Harvard." And she said, "Really?" I said, "Yes." And she's like, "And why is that?" I'm like, "Well, because as I was just saying, I'm a good student. I've had a good life here, and I know that if I go to a school like that's the only one I had heard of, then I should do well abroad as well." And she was like, "Huh." And she was, I guess I guess this is a complete idiom, but she was what you would call a good American. She thought that was actually quite, she liked that type of attitude. So she took me in and we went to look at some books about US colleges and universities. And she's like, "Let's see what they ask for." So we went and we looked at the requirements. They had the books there. They said, "Okay, this is what we would want to see from an applicant." So I said, "Okay." I took notes, and I went home and I decided to do it. So I decided to do what they said. So they said they wanted top grades. I had that. They said they wanted recommendations. I thought I could get them from my teachers, but they said they wanted to see that you do something outside of school, an extracurricular activity, if it's not a sport, but something that makes you stand out from the other good students. And I, at the time, was a good writer at school in terms of writing just essays and things in French. And so I went down to the national newspaper and asked them if they wanted an intern. And it's called a Nouvelliste. And they said, "Yes, we'd love to have an intern." So they took me in. And very soon I was working on the beat of the city beat, and I was writing pieces about this is to show you how much things have changed in Haiti, about the state of hygiene in the city, and where they were not picking up the trash, where the trash was going when it was raining too much, the drainage problems. And so they gave me some big boots and I would go down to the Champs or go down to, Bicentenaire and see what was going on there and write pieces about it. And so I did that, and plus school. And then I applied. I did apply to Harvard, but I ended up going to Yale. At that time, to be fair, I did not have a notion of Britain. When I was in secondary school in Haiti, because I was in the French school, our books for the English language were about British English. And I do remember they were quite alien because we were surrounded by American culture. The books we had at school were were very different from what we knew about the English language. There were pictures of a lot of working class towns in the north of England with these very similar houses, very red-headed kids eating doorstopper, like big loaves of white bread with jam on top and freckles. And things like ads for Marmite, but we could not relate to any of this. All of this was incredibly alien to us. And then when 10 years later now, when I'm in America, I'm 28, and I've met a Dutch guy who's a banker as well, and he wants to come back to Europe because he's an only child and his parents are here and all of this. And I did not want to move here. I wanted to stay in New York because my family was in Haiti, much closer. And in New York, I had at the time many cousins and my sister who was living with us. So I didn't want to come. But he wanted to get married, or actually, to be fair, we had gotten married at this stage. We had got married in Haiti, and he wanted to move. And I guess I'm part of a generation where you still followed your husband, or at least I was brought up like that. And so I'm in the funny position of being a Caribbean immigrant here, who now has a British passport and everything, but I came here as an expat. I cried all the way. I had a business class ticket here, but I cried all the way here on the plane. I think I knew that I was shutting down a door, that I wasn't and I wasn't sure what I was going to do here was going to compensate for what I was losing, because I mean, I loved my husband, and we were in a good marriage at the time, and I underestimated probably the sacrifice, because I don't have any family in Britain. You know, I really came as an expat. I had no community here. I got here and it was dark. I mean, New York is dark too, but it wasn't dark like here. New York actually has a lot of lights in the city, and we lived in Manhattan, and here it was dark. But London was on the up, and New York was probably not. London was actually booming in those days. It was Tony Blair, you know, it was before the 2008 crash. It was before Brexit, obviously. It was a good time to be a 28-year-old, 29-year-old in London. And so when I got here, I did not know any other Caribbean people. I knew the people I worked with. So I ended up in a very much of an expat environment with French people, Italians, some people from Pakistan, from India, people from Americans, Dutch, Germans, who worked with us, who were my husband worked at the time at Lehman Brothers, which blew up in 2008. I was at Merrill. So we had a very, very privileged life. And we did not know much, to be honest, about Britain. We knew about London. We knew about London in the city, London in Notting Hill, London in Primrose Hill, London, you know, that type of London, you know, but we did not know much about Britain. I learned about Britain a few years later, because what happened a few years later is I became pregnant. I had my first child in an emergency cesarean at 25 weeks gestation. So 24 weeks is the abortion. And he was very small because I had a preeclampsia and I had blood clots in my placenta. So he hadn't been fed already for 2 weeks. So he was 600 grams when he was born. So he was tiny. And actually the doctors thought he was going to die. They thought it was a very late miscarriage. But they thought, we saved the mother, you can have another child. You're only 30, you know. And so the child was very sick, and this happened at UCH. And then I got in the NHS, and then I got to know something else. I got to see something else. I got to see how great it was to have a system here where nobody is asking you for money. There was at the time a story in the New Yorker about a child born like mine. And this mother, besides the stress of that child being in the incubator or being, you know, in an open tray, because when they're that small, they can't even go in an incubator. They put them on a tray like for an oven, you know, and to keep them warm. And then because they can stick all their needles in the babies. And so this mother was describing this story, but she had on top of it the stress of the money, because the insurance was only going to cover this much, and then she had to patch up, and she was going to come out of there still with something like a 6-figure debt. My eldest son is who made me British, beginning with those 4 or 5 months he spent at UCH. Then he spent time at Great Ormond Street. Then he was statemented. Then we went to the school. Then, in all of these struggles that we went through, made us, you know, more British. From the 11th of January 2010, this is the day I became British, but it's also the day I lost Haiti. Well, you can lose Haiti many times, as I've discovered, but I didn't know that at the time. So this was the day this giant earthquake annihilated Port-au-Prince. And that was the morning of our swearing in to become British citizens. The Prime Minister was Gordon Brown. So I received a signed picture of Gordon Brown that I did not hang in my house. And we were invited to Camden Town Hall to do the swearing in. And this is how it works. They ask you, who do you want to pledge allegiance to? The Queen, because the Queen was there at the time, or God? And I asked, what's the difference? Because I am a trader. And they said 10 quid for the Queen and 20 quid for God. So I thought, well, I'll do the Queen then. I became British because the marriage was not going well. And I was afraid of being kicked out of the country because I didn't have any papers to be here except as, married to a European. At the time, it was still part of Europe. And so I thought, if I end up divorced, I don't want to be kicked out. I want to have choices. The community here is spread. It's not a very large community, but we have a WhatsApp group, which basically means it's not such a large community. Haitian Family UK WhatsApp group. 114 members. I'm sure there are more Haitians than are on the WhatsApp group, but these are all the prominent Haitians of London who have many things to say. And it's spread around the UK. Some people are in Bournemouth. A few people are in West London. My good friend Saskia lives actually right there, behind here, so here in Chalk Farm. Some people live in Willesden. Some people live in Leeds. So the Haitian community here congregates in a restaurant in Acton called Tiki Bar. It's a very good Haitian restaurant, and it's a happy place. Haitians love to talk about Haiti. And because Haiti is always in crisis, there's always something to talk about. So Haitians, if you look at this, we can take right now it's going to be really rough because right now Haiti is very bad. I think if you come from Dominica, you come from Jamaica, you come from Trinidad, it's not the same. I mean, Haiti right now, there's no planes. You can't go there. I could want to go there, I can't. This happens, more often than it should. Haiti is it's very strange. It must be like for Palestinians, or it must be the same for people in Yemen. It's a country that gives you a lot of trauma because you can't go home. Not even on vacation. You can't go. Everybody feels so powerless and so overwhelmed and so tired. This is what happens in a country where the state doesn't function. It's a country of redemption tourism. Once I went to Haiti, and everybody on the plane had a T-shirt saying what they were going to do in Haiti. Everybody. Save Haiti, water, whatever. Save Haiti, dig latrine. Save Haiti, I don't know, and mainly Americans, but all kinds of people, and all of them with their T-shirt on saying what they're going to do in Haiti. So, yeah. So I call it redemption tourism because I don't see what else that kind of thing is. And Haiti has been for a long time now living on public charity from people like USAID and the World Bank, and private charity, which is the remittance culture. I think that there's a survivor guilt that steps in, that I think I still suffer, but I'm better now than I used to be, but suffered from. And it used to drive me mad because I felt that I had been lucky in life. I had made also some good choices, which means that I could bring up my children here in the UK to become, good citizens with a moral sensibility. At the same time, I felt this pull to go back or to talk to Haitians or to get involved. And at the same time, knowing that I'm just an individual all the way here. I really don't have that much pull. And so what I would do is spend time that I could spend, making a living here, raising my kids, spending time living in the present of my life in the UK, pretending to be living somewhere else. And I think that happens to a lot of diasporic people, you're not living here because your mind is there. My kids have been to Haiti. They know the Haitian family very well, but they don't have this confusion of this nostalgia. I didn't pass it down to them for them to think that life here is rubbish, and my dream is to go find my identity in Haiti. My eldest son actually is very good at this. He's very careful person. I think because of the way he was born, he values his life very much. He's a very cautious young man. And one day we were in Haiti on vacation, just when things were starting to turn bad there. This was in 2012. So he was 12 years old. The other ones were younger. And we had a kidnapping scare. There's a lot of kidnapping in Haiti. And they came to kidnap us because they knew we had come from abroad, so they thought we would have cash, American cash. But they went to my neighbor, not to me. And the neighbor did not rat us out. But they went there, these gangsters with machine guns, and they really messed up her house, a lady living by herself. And in the morning, she came to me and she was like, they were looking for you. Well, I went to have coffee with her. And I could not thank her enough because she was screaming. She had been terrified. What saved her is that she's the headmistress of a school in the neighborhood. So the lady who was with her went into the neighborhood and said, raised the alarm. And so the neighborhood came down and they ran. And she said to me, they were coming for you. And when my eldest son heard this, he was like, Mama, it's not worth it. It's not worth coming here for this. But I do believe in agency, and I do believe that at some point you have to make a choice and you have to own it. So at some point, when this happened, I had made a choice. I had made a choice that I was going to call Britain my home. It doesn't mean I come from Britain. It doesn't mean that Britain is the only place I know, but it is my home today. And Britain is the place I've raised my children in. And that means a lot to me because I feel like I've become an adult in a way, a responsible adult here. I have made some serious moral choices here with the reality of this country surrounding me. I took my son, when he turned 18, he registered to vote, we went to vote together. And I wanted my children to be comfortable with who they are. Because I wanted my children to grow up knowing that they are British, they're from London, and they are international. They have these different backgrounds. And that's fine, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that,